Have you ever found yourself wondering about the truly invisible forces that shape our world? Not just the headlines or, the daily challenges we face in our professional lives, but those deep underlying patterns.
hmm
The ones that seem to govern everything from, say, the smallest biological processes right up to the intricate dynamics of global economies.
It's a compelling thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
Our instincts often nudge us towards believing reality is neat, linear, predictable almost,
Yeah.
like a sort of grand cosmic clockwork.
Exactly. But what if the truth is far more, well, nuanced? What if things operate on surprising, nonlinear principles that defy our common sense, yet actually hold the key to understanding success and failure?
Indeed, the universe, and by extension, our professional landscapes, particularly in complex fields like medicine, are far less straightforward than they often appear.
Right.
And that's precisely what we're delving into today.
Right.
Our mission with this deep dive is to explore what we call power laws. Now, these aren't just abstract scientific concepts buried in academic papers. They are universal principles, relationships that seem to cut across specific disciplines and offer truly profound insights into the mechanics of business, innovation, and even the daily realities you navigate as medical professionals.
That's right. Think of this as your pathway to gaining, well, a quick yet thorough understanding, hopefully leading to those genuine aha moments about how the world really functions.
Hmm.
Because despite their apparent complexity, these power laws offer surprisingly simple, recurrent explanations for phenomena that, on the surface, seem entirely unrelated.
Exactly. Imagine how a slight tweak in a medical protocol, a seemingly small decision in a large hospital system, or perhaps a shift in how a new drug is introduced, can have these disproportionately massive effects.
That's the essence of it, isn't it? Challenging that conventional sort of clockwork universe mindset
Hmm.
and embracing a more dynamic, often counterintuitive reality.
It's about understanding the fundamental rules of the game rules that, well, we can't simply change, but which, once understood and recognized, can actually be harnessed to multiply our effectiveness.
Right, like understanding the rules of physics before trying to build a bridge.
Precisely. Much like a skilled surgeon uses their deep knowledge of anatomy and physiology to perform complex procedures, you can use these power laws to anticipate outcomes, refine strategies, and ultimately chart a more successful course for your organizations and your careers.
Okay, let's unpack this then. We're going to start our journey by looking at the biological blueprint, how evolution, genes, and even our ancient human behaviors play out in some surprising ways in modern settings, including, of course, the healthcare sector.
A perfect starting point. When we discuss universal drivers in the material world, nothing is more fundamental than evolution by natural selection. As the philosopher Daniel Dennett put it, if you could bestow an award for the best idea ever, it would undoubtedly go to Darwin.
High praise indeed.
It is. His theory bridged the seemingly disparate worlds of mechanical physical sciences and the intricate, meaningful realm of culture, art, and biology. Without natural selection, our species wouldn't exist. And if its principles didn't apply to ideas, technologies, and markets, we'd likely still be struggling just to avoid famine. It truly drives all material progress, even in something as structured as medical innovation.
It's quite remarkable how Darwin's core insights, stemming from observations back in the 1830s, boiled down to just three plain facts. First, there's overproduction.
Yes.
Living organisms consistently produce far more offspring than can possibly survive. Darwin noted that cod lay millions of eggs. If they all survived, the oceans would be solid with cod in mere months.
An astonishing image.
Isn't it? Even elephants, among the slowest breeders, would number 15 million from a single pair within 5 centuries if unchecked. This inherent overproduction, everywhere you look in nature, inevitably leads to a struggle for existence. There simply aren't enough resources.
Precisely. And the second observation is equally simple, yet profound. Variation. All creatures are unique. We all possess inheritable differences. You see it everywhere, don't you? From the subtle distinctions between siblings to the dramatic variations within a species.
No two are ever truly identical.
Exactly. Even identical twins have slight differences.
And the third, which pulls it all together, is inheritance. These variations, these unique traits, are passed down from parent to offspring. We are, quite literally, more like our parents than other people's parents.
It seems obvious when stated like that.
It does. Putting these three facts together, Darwin deduced the rudiments of natural selection. Intense competition among offspring means only a few can survive and reproduce. Those with variations best suited to their environment are more likely to survive and pass on those advantageous traits.
He stressed how difficult it is to constantly bear this universal struggle for life in mind, yet it's absolutely crucial for understanding nature and indeed many competitive fields.
And this framework of selection isn't just confined to biological species either. You mentioned Bruce Henderson earlier, founder of the Boston Consulting Group.
Yes, he famously observed that Darwin is a better guide to competition than economists. Selection drives material progress in ideas, technologies, markets, companies, teams, and even individual products.
So in medicine,
Absolutely. Consider the world of medical research. Countless hypotheses generated, numerous clinical trials initiated, but only a few truly robust treatments or innovative devices ultimately survive the rigorous selection process, peer review, regulatory approval, clinical efficacy. It's a powerful lens for viewing all forms of competition, even within healthcare.
what's fascinating here is how this leads to specialization and differentiation, even in medicine. Just as evolution creates distinct species, economic evolution carves out specific niches and specialties. Think about how the practice of medicine has diversified. From general practitioners, it forked into countless specialties: cardiology, oncology, neurosurgery.
And then further subdivisions within those.
Exactly. Interventional cardiology, pediatric neuro-oncology. It's a constant process of differentiation emerging from generality, driven by the need to find and exploit unique niches of patient need or technological expertise.
This inherent process of differentiation also highlights the critical role of experimentation and, crucially, failure. Natural selection is, in essence, a grand experiment where luck, or rather the random generation of variation, is paramount.
And the same applies directly to business and medical innovation.
Directly. The reality is most experiments fail. We see huge sums, around $160 billion spent annually on R&D in developed countries, but only about 5% of that generates a viable product or service.
That's a sobering statistic.
It is. And even those few successful products face a high death rate in their early months and years, whether that's a new medical device or a pharmaceutical.
It's a tough environment, isn't it? Take Sony, for example, with the Walkman. They didn't just launch one model, they understood this power of experimentation, almost flooding the market with hundreds of variants.
Of letting the market select the winners.
Precisely. In the medical field, this translates to the iterative nature of research. Multiple drug candidates, various surgical techniques, diverse rehabilitation protocols, many are tried.
But only a few demonstrate superior efficacy or safety. This willingness to try and fail rapidly is key. Consider how a large hospital system might pilot different patient flow models in various departments, quickly discarding those that don't work and scaling up the ones that do.
Procter & Gamble took a radical step back in 1930, didn't they? Allowing direct competition between their own brands.
They did. This internal rivalry created challenges that forced continuous improvement and prevented complacency. It took competitors decades to adopt that approach. They also have an incredibly rigorous product development process, mandatory test marketing, meaning very few concepts actually make it to production.
But those that do are exceptionally well vetted.
Exactly. For healthcare, this might imply fostering internal competition among research teams, perhaps, or even allowing different clinical departments to experiment with distinct approaches to a common problem, always provided patient safety is paramount.
So the second lesson here is that new product or service variants will arrive, whether you introduce them or not.
The market, or in our case, patient need and scientific progress, doesn't really care who owns the innovation. It simply wants better solutions.
Which means you need to proactively scatter new breeds around your core offerings, essentially trying to fill up potential patient care spaces or research avenues yourself.
Precisely. If you neglect a niche, think about the rise of telemedicine or personalized medicine maybe 5, 10 years ago, new specialists will inevitably come in and fill it, potentially challenging your established practices down the line.
And the third lesson.
Product and service improvement can and should always be accelerated. Competitive selection drives faster evolution. This means tolerating, even encouraging, what might initially look like failure.
Because it's part of the process.
It's an intrinsic part of discovery and refinement. P&G's experience with Olestra is a classic example. Originally conceived as a fat for premature babies, it proved unabsorbed a failure for its initial purpose. But they didn't just scrap it. They redirected the project to develop a fat substitute. What looked like a dead end became a massive success in a reevaluated direction.
So for medical research, a drug failing for one indication might work for another. A surgical tool not quite right for one procedure might be adapted.
Exactly. The key is recognizing that potential, seeing a detour rather than just a dead end. It requires flexibility and a willingness to pivot.
This brings us to a crucial point about time itself. Time is a proxy for generations in evolution, linking directly to time-based competition.
Yes, competitive advantage in this view comes from minimizing the time it takes to get products or services to market, or, crucially in medicine, to adopt a new, proven clinical practice.
Like the HY War Honda versus Yamaha in the early 80s.
A perfect example. Honda introduced 60 new motorcycle models in a year, then another 113 in the next 18 months. They simply out-innovated Yamaha. Industries that innovate faster grow faster.
So in medicine, this means reducing the time from research discovery to the patient's bedside, from a new diagnostic technique to widespread clinical adoption.
That's the essence of it. The faster you can iterate and implement effectively, the more competitive, and more importantly, the more beneficial to patients you become.
This concept also forces us to confront Stanislaw Ulam's dilemma. He's a brilliant mathematician.
Indeed. Ulam noted his discipline spawns nearly 2,000 new theorems annually, yet very few survive due to limited funding and intellectual space. He questioned whether the best products or companies always win on objective merits.
Or is it more just blind competition?
His conclusion was somewhat stark. There's no assurance of survival of the fittest, except in a tautological sense, whatever survives is by definition the fittest.
So for healthcare, this implies that the most objectively perfect treatment protocol might not become standard.
It might not if another, perhaps less optimal but maybe more accessible, cheaper, or politically favored protocol gains traction first. Think QWERTY keyboards or Betamax versus VHS.
Not necessarily the best technology one there.
No. Network effects, early adoption, marketing, other factors came into play. The implication for healthcare is quite direct. The patient is always right. So is the market, even when it is unfair or wrong.
You can't fight the market, even if you're sure it's wrong.
It's generally futile. If patient feedback for a new service is negative, or a new drug faces unforeseen resistance despite its scientific merit, you have to adapt. You can't just wish the environment would change to suit you.
And that leads to the final point on evolution. Organizations, practices, hospitals, research institutes failing in one environment must either find a different market, a different niche, or radically change their character.
Exactly. Expecting the environment to change is usually a losing strategy. Darwin's theory states the environment selects the species. The species doesn't determine the environment, nor can it always adapt perfectly.
So you have little control over the wider healthcare ecosystem.
Very little. And if your capabilities evolve for a specific patient group or treatment model, it's unlikely they'll just happen to fit another perfectly without significant change. Variation is required in what you offer and where you offer it.
Okay, so if evolution provides the grand framework, then understanding the micromechanics of inheritance helps us grasp the engine of change more granularly. Darwin himself was puzzled by this, wasn't he?
He was. He admitted, the laws governing inheritance are quite unknown. Everyone assumed traits blended, which logically would water down adaptations over generations. It was a real sticking point.
Until Gregor Mendel, the monk with his peas.
Exactly. His plant breeding experiments in the mid-19th century showed that inherited traits weren't blended, but passed on as distinct units. Then, Thomas Hunt Morgan's fruit fly experiments, observing that white-eyed mutation.
Right, early 20th century.
Yes, between 1907 and 1915, they showed these units, which we now call genes, were physical entities on chromosomes, passed on according to mathematical probabilities. This finally solved Darwin's dilemma. Traits were passed undiluted.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting and profoundly applicable, I think. Richard Dawkins and his selfish gene concept.
A powerful idea. He argued that genes, not individuals or species, are the fundamental unit of selection. Genes build survival machines, organisms, to replicate themselves.
That metaphor of DNA flowing like a river out of Eden through time.
It's very evocative, isn't it? Unaffected by the individual bodies it passes through. This perspective offers a potent parallel for business, and certainly for the flow of innovation and knowledge in medicine.
Business genetics or innovation genetics.
Precisely. Think of units of economic information ideas, knowledge, best practices, unique surgical skills that replicate and create value. Just as biological genes need vehicles, these conceptual genes need their own vehicles.
People, clinical teams, research labs, specific diagnostic tools, new service models.
Exactly. These intangible ideas need to cloak themselves with physical texture and real-world application to become robust and replicate effectively.
So, the failures of small medical startups or research initiatives that don't pan out, though painful, become a necessary part of creative destruction, as Schumpeter put it.
Yes. When a less effective treatment or an inefficient hospital process is discarded, it frees up resources, time, money, attention for better use elsewhere. It's not about failure being bad. It's about learning and reallocating. If a vehicle isn't working, you discard it and learn.
And this naturally extends to spin-offs within the medical field, new clinics, specialized units, med tech companies.
Absolutely. They often inherit good genes from a parent institution, valuable knowledge, established practices, key talent, but crucially, they add new twists, new mutations, if you like. If these innovations suit the market, the spin-off prospers.
Which suggests larger healthcare organizations could benefit from actively backing promising spin-off ideas from their teams.
It does. Rather than stifling them or letting that talent walk away, leveraging existing genetic material for new evolutionary paths seems a much smarter strategy.
It even applies to individual career evolution in medicine, doesn't it?
It really does. A successful, dynamic career requires continuous variation. New roles, new specialties, new responsibilities. It demands constant experimentation with fresh combinations of skills and ideas.
And, importantly, accepting failure. A rejected paper, a difficult case, a management role that wasn't quite right.
Accepting it as a constructive mutation. Your professional ego shouldn't deny failure. It's an opportunity for self-development, a way to refine yourself as a better vehicle for effective ideas and practices. It's how you evolve professionally.
Right. Now let's shift gears slightly and explore how our ancient hardwired instincts from the savannah clash with the demands of the modern office, or maybe more pointedly, the modern hospital environment. This is evolutionary psychology territory.
Yes, essentially seeing us as Stone Age humans in the 21st century. And it offers some profound, sometimes unsettling insights.
It is a bit unsettling how much these ancient instincts still influence us. Evolutionary psychology contends they often conflict with modern professional imperatives. Think about how we react to feedback or colleagues.
Our natural disposition isn't always rational first, is it?
No, we react emotionally. Those alert instincts were vital on the savannah, literally life-saving. So emotions became the first reaction, not reasoned thought. And this carries right into how we manage teams, respond to patient complaints, or even interpret clinical data sometimes.
Indeed. And it's not just emotions. Blind confidence and egotism traits that might have been impressive in a tribal leader rallying the clan now often just annoy or breed cynicism in a modern team, say, in a hospital ward.
Our environment has changed dramatically, but the deep wiring hasn't quite caught up.
Not entirely. This also helps explain our inherent taste for hierarchy. Hunter-gatherer societies often in ad hoc hierarchies. Security increased with attachment to a strong leader.
Which explains why attempts to abolish hierarchy often just lead to new or informal ones. William White's Organization Man, Robert Townsend's critiques.
Exactly. Even if you flatten the official structure, unofficial pecking orders and power structures tend to emerge. It seems deeply ingrained.
And allied to hierarchy is conformism and herding. We naturally conform within our clan, our department, our surgical team, our specialty, and are often suspicious of outsiders.
It played a critical role in tribal survival, ensuring group cohesion. But in a complex healthcare organization, it can lead to resistance. Resistance to adopting new, evidence-based practices that come from outside the immediate group, challenging long-held, comfortable routines.
It takes real courage, or perhaps obstinance, to go against the received wisdom of the tribe.
It does. We also often fall into the trap of thinking of business as war, using military analogies. But John Kay makes a crucial point. Business competition, and arguably competition within healthcare research or provision, is fundamentally different.
How so?
In war, the biggest combatant often wins by destroying the opposition. In business or healthcare, multiple players can flourish. And the customer or the patient is the powerful third party who ultimately decides the winner. Trying to inflict direct damage on competitors is rarely effective and often counterproductive. Collaboration can yield far greater value.
Then there's risk aversion. We often see this false market in risk, don't we? Individuals and organizations reluctant to take real risks, even when evidence suggests fortune favors the brave.
It probably goes back to those hunter-gatherer days.
Hmm.
Once you had enough food or safety, why risk fighting for more? But you'd fiercely defend what you did have.
Which is why adopting radically new surgical techniques or investing in disruptive medical technology can be so challenging, even if the potential benefits seem clear.
It's a significant factor.
Yeah.
And this is strongly linked to the endowment effect.
Ah, yes, valuing what you already own more highly.
Precisely. Experiments show this clearly. If you're given a ticket, you're less likely to sell it than you would be to buy it if you didn't already have it.
Yeah.
In business, this translates into a first-mover advantage, where incumbents have a psychological edge simply because they own the current solution.
So in healthcare, a hospital might fiercely defend an outdated piece of equipment or a legacy patient management system.
Simply because they've already invested in it, they're used to it, even if a newer, more efficient option exists. That's the endowment effect in action. It's why incumbents often struggle to pivot. They value their existing processes far more than a challenger would, just because they own them.
This also comes up in the fascinating ultimatum bargaining game. Can you remind us how that works?
Certainly. Imagine Alex is given £500 and told to share it with Justin. If Justin refuses Alex's offer, neither gets anything. Rationally, Justin should accept even £5, shouldn't he? It's better than nothing.
Logically, yes, but people don't, do they?
Often they don't. They refuse offers they perceive as unfair, even if it costs them. This raises intriguing questions. Are generosity and a strong sense of fairness, or perhaps even socialistic envy, hardwired into us from shared hunting practices?
And how might this affect, say, negotiations between pharmaceutical companies and healthcare providers over drug pricing, where perceptions of fairness might trump purely economic logic?
It's a very relevant question. These deep-seated instincts about fairness can absolutely influence high-stakes negotiations.
But it's not all hardwiring, is it? There are counter-arguments.
Crucially, yes. First, there's strong evidence for cultural evolution. Learned behavior, or memes, as Dawkins called them, units of cultural transmission, like ideas, fashions, skills, can operate independently of genes. Cultural norms, like adopting new medical ethics or best practices, can spread rapidly without genetic change.
Like a new surgical technique spreading through conferences and journals?
Exactly. Second, neuroplasticity. The idea that the brain isn't fixed, but can actually be rewired by conscious effort, by thought. Dr. Jeffrey Schwartz's work on language processing and OCD, for instance, shows the brain is far more adaptable than we once thought.
So what's the takeaway for us as medical professionals? Are we puppets of our Stone Age genes or not?
The conclusion seems to be that humans are both hardwired and capable of rewiring, and crucially, believing in free will and your ability to change and adapt your thinking and behavior is actually functional for success.
So recognize the biases.
Yes. Recognize ourselves and our colleagues as, perhaps, Neolithic genes in 21st century imposters, and actively work to correct dysfunctional tendencies, risk avoidance when innovation is needed, resistance to new evidence, rejecting constructive criticism. It's about self-awareness and conscious adaptation.
And structurally within organizations.
Favoring small, simple, and relatively homogeneous units can simulate that cohesive Stone Age clan, fostering stronger collaboration. Think of successful hospitals breaking down large departments into smaller, multidisciplinary teams, maybe 5-10 people.
Robin Dunbar's number 150 for cohesive units.
Exactly. Beyond that, direct social bonds become harder to maintain effectively. It's interesting that small national size often carries no economic disadvantage. Perhaps simplicity and common identity are more important than sheer scale. Think of Belgium's prosperity.
This also means balancing heterogeneity and internal cohesion. Diversity of thought, background, speciality is immensely valuable in medicine, but our ancient genes aren't naturally geared for easy cooperation across diverse groups.
No, so it needs active management, a strong organizational culture, constant reminders of the value of variety, cross-group project teams, job rotation between clinical areas, hiring practices that guard against just hiring clones. These are essential.
And maybe even collaborating with competitors sometimes, avoiding zero-sum conflict.
Yes, surprisingly often, that can be more productive in the long run than trying to put them in a corner.
Okay, our final stop in this biological blueprint. The art of cooperation in a competitive world, drawing on game theory and alliances.
This is where we learned how cooperation can actually arise from entirely selfish motivations, especially in repeated interactions.
The classic prisoner's dilemma.
The classic example, it shows how two individuals acting purely in self-interest might not get the best outcome. But if they interact repeatedly, if there's a history, a relationship, trust, cooperation can emerge as the dominant rational strategy.
You see that in busy operating theaters or between departments collaborating on a complex patient case. Trust and repeated positive interactions build cooperation.
Absolutely, it benefits everyone, especially the patient. This also links to Dawkins' evolutionary arms race.
Constant escalation with no net advantage.
Exactly. Predators and prey constantly improve, but their relative positions stay the same. In business, people work longer hours, firms innovate relentlessly, but often just to stay in place.
And in medical research, the constant drive for more papers, more grants, incrementally better treatments.
Often it's just about keeping pace with a rapidly evolving field, not necessarily gaining a massive lead. It's running hard just to stand still, in a way.
But Matt Ridley's theory of social coagulation offers an uplifting counterpoint.
It does. He argues human society's unique ability to cooperate in large groups is the highest form of evolution, driven by specialization and trade, Adam Smith's division of labor. Trade, Ridley says, is a unique competitive advantage for Homo sapiens between groups.
So in healthcare, specialists relying on each other, hospitals referring patients, pharma companies collaborating on development.
All examples of this principle, and it's underpinned by memes, those units of cultural transmission leaving from brain to brain, enabling knowledge to drive progress. Think of a new surgical technique spreading rapidly.
This encourages social libertarianism, exchange between equals.
Yes, because paradoxically, our minds, built by selfish genes, have evolved to be social, trustworthy, and cooperative for mutual benefit.
So cooperation and competition aren't opposites, they're twin cherries on a single stalk.
A lovely phrase. Cooperation creates value, it bakes the pie, improves patient outcomes while competition captures it, takes a slice, decides who gets credit or funding.
Interesting to contrast excellent competitors, like maybe old ITT, cold and efficient, with excellent cooperators, firms like The Body Shop or Hewlett-Packard, inspiring affection.
And the data supports cooperation. A 30-year study showed socially responsible companies, arguably excellent cooperators, significantly outperform the Dow Jones Index. Skill and cooperation is increasingly vital, especially in knowledge fields like medicine.
Gaining the cooperation of the best researchers, clinicians, nurses.
It's paramount. Building strong, collaborative networks, internally and externally, leads to better outcomes and more sustainable success.
This leads beautifully to Nadelbuff and Brandenburger's theory of co-opetition.
Yes, broadening the view beyond just customers, suppliers, and competitors to include complementers.
Players who increase the value of your product when customers also have theirs, like Microsoft and Intel.
Exactly. They're parts framework players, added value, rules, tactics, scope, helps analyze these interactions. The classic example is IBM developing the PC,
They invited Intel and Microsoft in, creating an open architecture.
which led to a huge market. But it was Intel and Microsoft, the complementers, who ultimately cashed in more. IBM brought most to the party, but took away least because they didn't structure the rules to their benefit.
A harsh lesson. Rules can be rewritten.
Always by creative players with real value to add. In healthcare, think of a new telemedicine platform partnering with a diagnostics company. The combined value is greater, but who captures it depends on how the relationship is structured.
And it extends to tactics. Sometimes transparency crashes prices, so a bit of fog might be useful.
Occasionally, yes, though generally transparency is favored today. And scope, remembering no business game is an island. Think of Minnetonka launching soft soap
They tied up the pump dispenser production.
for a year from the only two manufacturers. By the time the majors could enter, soft soap was liquid soap in the public mind. It's about anticipating bottlenecks.
This brings us to the cathedral versus bazaar metaphor.
Yes, Eric Raymond contrasting carefully crafted software by isolated wizards, cathedrals, with Linus Torvalds' open, collaborative approach to Linux, the bazaar.
Given enough eyeballs, all bugs are shallow. Debugging is parallelizable.
The internet culture embodies this. In medicine, think open-source medical software or global collaborative research projects sharing data freely to accelerate breakthroughs.
And yet, Jared Diamond's principle of intermediate fragmentation suggests an optimum between excessive unity and fragmentation.
Exactly. You want groups that compete but also communicate freely. He contrasts centralized China, which could dismantle its fleet by decree, with fragmented Europe, where Columbus could shop his idea around.
Silicon Valley as an ideal. Fiercely competitive but highly communicative.
A good model for medical innovation hubs, perhaps, fostering both rivalry and knowledge exchange.
It all comes back to a beautiful conclusion. Advanced selfishness actually requires cooperation, trustworthiness, generosity.
Taking a long-term view of reciprocity, building networks of cooperators. Short-term self-interest can be self-defeating. Cooperation truly is the highest form of self-interest for individuals and systems.
So we've navigated the biological landscape. Now let's pivot to the grand laws of the physical universe, from Newton to quantum quarks, and see how they echo in business and healthcare.
Absolutely. Sir Isaac Newton's impact was immense. Universal, mathematically predictable laws governing movement. The clockwork universe idea.
Building bridges, sending rockets, a sense of control.
Deeply reassuring. And it's not old hat for business or medicine. Newtonian tools are invaluable. Accounting systems, return on capital, discounted cash flow, cost-benefit analyses for new scanners or treatments.
You couldn't run a hospital or a health service without them.
Impossible. They provide those simple universal numbers that still offer magical insights into efficiency and viability. And Newton's third law, action and reaction are equal and opposite.
A guide to what's around the corner.
Almost infallible. Any powerful development elicits an opposite one. Highly specialized procedures create demand for holistic care. Tech advances might spark a counter-movement emphasizing the human touch. It works both ways.
Then there's the gravity of competition, applying Newton's law of gravitation.
Metaphorically, yes. Corporate gravity is the downward pressure on margins from competitors. In healthcare, pressure on pricing for procedures, drugs, due to alternatives.
And this gravity is strong if you're close to a larger competitor, where size means resources, skill, not just patient numbers.
Exactly. And distance is about differentiation, unique services, specialization, geography. Crucially, this Martian gravity isn't linear.
Returns rise sharply as you avoid competitors or increase relative size. BCG found a 10% relative market share gain led to more than 10% profit increase.
A key nonlinear return. The lesson for healthcare providers. Systematically increase distance, develop unique specialities, patient experiences, concentrate resources in competition-free zones, avoid commodity black holes.
Moving into the 20th century, Einstein arrives. Relativity, space, time, mass, energy linked.
Subverting Newton, leading to transistors, nuclear power. Profound changes. And while we can't apply the equations directly to medicine.
The worldview shift matters, the elusive nature of time and truth.
Precisely. For business, it means integrating time into the offering product time, service time, delivering faster diagnostic results, quicker access to specialists.
But here's the time heresy. We're often awash with time in organizations.
Black Excellent Health research suggests most value is added in short bursts, oases of productivity, surrounded by deserts of low-value processes, waiting times. The challenge is mental. Think of time as internal to your offering, not external.
Measure it. Find savings. Map patient journeys. Focus on those who value speed.
Which, in medicine, is almost everyone. Einstein and Gödel's incompleteness theorem also imply no absolute truth. Reality is an invention, not a given.
How does that translate?
Key relativities. The patient's perspective on care quality is always different from the provider's, so continuous listening and acting on feedback is crucial. Decentralized decisions, moving them closer to the patient, even letting patients make some choices within safe bounds.
Powerful, and perceived quality is paramount.
Absolutely. Quality isn't absolute, it's perception. A strong hospital brand, good communication, market leadership. These can all shape the perception of quality in the patient's mind.
Marshall McLuhan. The medium is the message. Communications tech transforms things.
Think online patient forums, review sites. They've fundamentally shifted how medical services are perceived and chosen. The internet is both a dominant tech and a communications mechanism.
Shifting power to individuals, patients seeking information and choice. Favoring insurgent providers like telemedicine startups.
Yes, it changes the nature of healthcare delivery, making product time and service time imperative. Patients expect instant access, rapid responses. It pushes the whole system.
Finally, let's brave the quantum realm. Heisenberg, Bohr, a bizarre microworld.
Oddly, unpredictably random and interconnected, far removed from our everyday experience. Schrödinger's cat illustrates the absurdity of applying it directly.
The cat both alive and dead until observed.
A bizarre thought experiment, yes, but its core message, the opposite of a great truth is also true, is highly relevant.
How so? For management.
The key insight is adopting a both-hand approach, escaping the tyranny of either. Don't choose between Newtonian management, rational, numbers-driven hospital administration, or quantum management, embracing unpredictability, experimentation, paradox. Embrace both. Integrate rigorous, evidence-based protocols, and be willing to experiment with novel, unconventional approaches when standard methods fail, within ethical bounds, of course. It suggests the value of thought experiments and actual experiments, exploring possibilities before committing fully.
Okay, now let's transition into decoding dynamic systems. Chaos, complexity, and the powerhouse 80-20 principle. Finding patterns in disorder, vital for complex systems like healthcare.
Many important things, weather, brains, cities, economies, human bodies are nonlinear systems. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Simple cause and effect thinking fails.
Traditional linear analysis can't cope.
No. Chaos theory defines chaos not as randomness, but constrained disorder. Patterns are discernible within irregularities. Mandelbrot finding similar patterns in cotton prices and Nile levels.
Unexpected order. What are the implications for hospitals or health systems?
Profound. It's inherently uncertain and risky. Past success guarantees nothing. Taking intelligent risks is vital because outcomes are uncertain anyway.
And sensitive dependence on initial conditions. Small changes, huge effects.
Exactly. A minor change in a clinical trial's recruitment, an overlooked detail in a drug's formulation. Tiny starting points can have massive ripple effects you'd never predict.
Which also means when things go wrong in complex systems, blaming individuals might be pointless.
Often it is. The system itself can be unpredictable. Focus on what to do next, not assigning blame. And because of this uncertainty, major decisions require more than a single strategy. You need options.
Building on chaos, complexity theory adds feedback systems, emergence.
Where groups behave differently from individual parts, and self-organizing systems, spontaneous organization from simpler parts. Nature is full of them, lasers, hurricanes, cells, termite colonies.
But most modern corporations and often hospitals aren't purely self-organizing.
Not really. Parkinson's law is an example of distorted self-organization within bureaucracies. Work expands to fill the time available. Officials multiply subordinates for empire building, regardless of economic logic. You see echoes in healthcare administration sometimes.
So the lesson is to observe the system, spot what's emerging from the front lines, rather than dictating from on high.
Yes. Recognize organizations are more like living organisms than machines. They learn, copy, diffuse improvements. They have evolving purposes.
And the landscape's metaphor from complexity science.
Lissac and Ruse's idea. Competitive terrain shifts dynamically. New hills rise, old ones erode. Think of the medical device industry. A dominant technology's hilltop can be eroded by a disruptive innovation. The landscape is never static.
Which brings us to the nonlinear powerhouse, the 80-20 principle, tipping points, increasing returns, achieving more with less.
The 80-20 principle, Pareto's observation from 1897, describes that profound imbalance. It's everywhere. 700 words make 70% of conversation, 1% of films make 80% of box office, 5% of websites get 75% of visits.
Causes and effects are rarely 50-50. Always sheep and goats, a vital few, a trivial many.
Joseph Juran, the quality guru, called it the rule of the vital few. His insight, always isolate the vital few causes of problems, don't get bogged down in the trivial many. IBM did this in 1963 with computer code.
Rewriting 20% of the code that used 80% of the time. Dramatic gains. Microsoft did similar things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In healthcare, identify the 20% of admin tasks consuming 80% of staff time, or the 20% of patient complaints representing 80% of service issues. Addressing the vital few yields disproportionate improvements.
So strategically, firms, hospitals, they do too much. 20% of activity yields 80% of benefit.
That's the hypothesis.
Yeah.
It implies doing more of the vital few and less of the trivial many. Challenge the obsession with ownership, acquisitions. Consider non-ownership options, alliances. Divest non-core services. Focus the value chain.
Fewer products, customers, suppliers. Corning's 505 analysis ditching products that made up 50% of the range, but only 5% of sales.
Simplifying the business boosted profitability. In healthcare, streamline devices used, focus on core patient segments, optimize suppliers. It leads to the simple firm.
Maximizing return on management employed, ROAM. Prioritizing that over return on capital employed, ROCE.
Because management effort, clinical leadership, that's often the scarcer, more critical resource in complex medical settings today.
This also connects to the sociological power of weak ties, informal networks.
Yes, friends of friends, conference connections, casual chats between researchers. These can be more effective than rigid, formal ties. Allows influence with less control, tapping diverse information, unexpected connections, achieving 80% of the goal with 20% of the effort.
Now, back to punctuated equilibrium. Major tech changes punctuate equilibria. Railroads, electricity, computing, the internet.
Penicillin, MRI technology, genomics. These enabling technologies drive dramatic cost reductions and growth, fundamentally shifting the landscape.
And this leads to the tipping point. Ideas spreading like plagues.
Exactly. Reaching a critical mass after a gestation period, then rapid exponential adoption. Microsoft's profits tiny for 10 years, then exploded. Federal Express snowballed.
In medicine, widespread adoption of a preventative measure after it hits critical mass, rapid uptake of a new vaccine.
Those fit the pattern. And Peter Drucker highlighted unexpected events, successes, or failures as innovation opportunities. IBM pivoting to payroll computers. Ford's Edsel failure leading to the Mustang.
So, in healthcare, an unexpected drug side effect might lead to a new treatment. A surprising patient outcome sparks new research.
Absolutely. Be alert to the unexpected. We also underestimate exponential growth. It's not linear. The lily pad's doubling.
Covering half the pond in 16 weeks, the whole pond in just one more week. The chess story.
Seemingly modest grains of rice becoming a colossal amount. Exponential growth changes industries qualitatively, bringing new leaders. Think genomic data growth, computing power for drug discovery. It's not just more, it's fundamentally different.
This challenges the classical law of diminishing returns.
Yes, the idea that more effort eventually yields less return doesn't reflect many real-world markets well, especially tech or network industries.
Instead, we often see increasing returns. Moore's law computing capacity doubling at no extra cost.
Brian Arthur's work explains it. Products businesses that get ahead get further ahead. Due to high upfront costs, low marginal costs, like software first sale costs millions, second costs pennies, and powerful network effects.
Value increases with more users, like fax machines, email, or electronic medical record EMR systems.
Exactly. The more doctors and hospitals use a particular EMR, the more valuable it becomes. Data sharing, standardization, a self-reinforcing loop. Internet economics show winner takes most.
Low transaction costs, easy customization, separating info from physical flows, Amazon. Consumers become unpaid producers, reviews.
Competitive advantage shifts from scale costs to dominant standards, capturing high value from a small strategic layer, but it demands eternal innovation to defend that position.
Finally, how do we sustain success? Navigate the pitfalls.
The paradox of enrichment is key. Too much success can turn virtuous cycles vicious. Success breeds arrogance, complacency, ignoring new tech.
A successful hospital stops listening to patients, hires more staff but hinders innovation, diversifies unwisely.
Nothing fails like unchecked success. Then there's entropy, the tendency for things to run down. Competitive positions rest on resources needing constant tending, renewal. Success isn't equilibrium, it requires constant innovation.
And the law of unintended consequences. Critical and complex systems like healthcare.
Well-intentioned actions can have disastrous results due to linear thinking in a nonlinear system. Dietrich Derner's work highlights this. The speed bumps causing more pollution, ultimately urban decline.
So in medicine, a cost-cutting policy might inadvertently worsen outcomes elsewhere? Or increase admin burden?
It's highly possible. Derner advises clear, multiple goals, anticipating side effects, avoiding single causes, using simulations. But ultimately, human creativity and adaptability are the antidotes. Unintended consequences are inevitable.
You have to notice them, correct them, knowing those corrections will have more unintended consequences.
It's a continuous cycle. Observation, adaptation, learning.
So sustainable success for an individual, clinician, a team, an institution is a virtuous cycle, but constantly threatened.
It requires creating new value daily, maintaining humility, service orientation, focus, leanness, hunger, eschewing complexity, rooting out arrogance, anticipating and correcting the unexpected through systemic thinking.
It's been quite a journey through these power laws, biology, physics, systems, offering a coherent, if perhaps wonky, view of reality.
And the point isn't rigid adherence, but understanding and harnessing these powerful, often hidden forces for advantage, particularly in the demanding world of medicine.
It's a fascinating battle, isn't it? That ongoing struggle between our hardwired instincts and the dynamic, complex world we've created. Business, and indeed medical practice, at its core, is this constant process of creation and adaptation.
Where the greatest opportunities lie in identifying and exploiting those unexpected patterns and continually reinventing value for patients and society.
It's a call to look beyond the obvious, perhaps, to embrace the nonlinear.
And to understand that progress truly depends on the unreasonable medical professional, the one who seeks to adapt the world to their vision, pioneering new treatments, technologies, or models of care, rather than just conforming to existing demands.
If you've enjoyed this deep dive into the hidden forces shaping our world, please do consider rating and sharing the show. It helps us bring more of these surprising insights directly to you.